Kim-Malone-Scott, Just Work, Get. Asterisk T done, fast and fair. In Just Work, Get. Asterisk T done, fast and fair, Kim-Malone-Scott offers fresh insights and practical tools for navigating bias, prejudice, and bullying in the workplace. The book highlights the challenges and uncertainty faced by individuals when they encounter unconscious bias, and how silence adversely affects all involved parties. By understanding and defining bias, prejudice, and bullying, Scott paves the way for effective communication strategies that invite understanding and correction. The book encourages self-awareness, open-mindedness, and growth, helping readers to build healthier, more productive relationships at work and in their personal lives.
The costs of staying quiet. Kim Scott's encounter with a man who mistook her for an event staff on the day she was to speak to Silicon Valley executives is an excellent example of how keeping quiet can be terrible for everyone involved. Though she was uncertain how to deal with the situation, staying silent had consequences far beyond her alone. Kim believes that keeping quiet when one gets stereotyped as oversensitive or angry can be bad for your relationships with your colleagues, fosters resentment, and gives little room for the person exhibiting problematic behavior to change. In her book, Just Work, Chapter 2 delves deeper into the costs of staying silent and ways to confront such situations. Reacting to harmful stereotypes. Learn how to effectively respond to bias, prejudice, and bullying with the right statements. In the face of bias, prejudice, and bullying, it's not always easy to know how to respond effectively. However, it's important to react quickly and address harmful stereotypes. The first step is to understand the difference between bias, prejudice, and bullying. Bias refers to unconscious stereotypes, while prejudice reflects consciously held beliefs. Bullying is simply being mean. When faced with bias, use an "I" statement to give the person a chance to correct their behavior. For example, saying, "I don't work here, I'm about to make a speech," can help correct the person and address their bias. On the other hand, an "it" statement can be used to respond to prejudice by appealing to laws, HR policies, or common sense. For instance, saying, "It is illegal" or "It is ridiculous" to judge someone based on their gender can help set boundaries. When confronted with bullying, it's crucial to push the person away with a "you" statement or question. "You can't talk to me like that" is a great example. If that feels too risky, using "Where'd you get that shirt" can also work. This kind of statement puts you in an active role and forces the person to respond to you. By understanding these different types of statements, you can effectively respond to harmful stereotypes. To learn more, check out Chapter 2 in the book Just Work. Overcoming personal bias. Unconscious biases and prejudices are common but not unchangeable. We must learn to identify these biases and invite feedback from others to make changes. When our biases are pointed out, we need to avoid becoming defensive and take concrete steps to make amends. Bart's story in the book illustrates how he tackled his personal bias and turned it into a growth opportunity for his company. He acknowledged his bias, developed a training program for his team, and enlisted the help of his colleagues to ensure that his colleague, Avery, wasn't always the one correcting him. We can all learn to do better by practicing vulnerability, being specific in our apologies, and taking action to change. Being an upstander, how to interrupt bias, prejudice, and bullying. Aileen Lee, a partner at a venture capital firm, experienced unconscious bias in a meeting with senior executives where they ignored her and directed their comments towards her male colleagues. Her male colleague disrupted the bias by asking to switch seats with Aileen, which led to her being included in the conversation. Such individuals are called upstanders and play a vital role in interrupting bias. Instead of pointing out bias themselves, victims of bias can delegate, create a distraction, document the event, delay and check in with the person later. Upstanders should not try to play the role of white saviors, as it is counterproductive. Being an upstander means intervening for everyone's sake. Dealing with bias and bullying in the workplace. As a leader, how can you effectively prevent bias, prejudice, and bullying within your company? Enrolling staff in workshops or outsourcing the problem to HR will not suffice. Leaders need to take action by 1. Teaching the team to disrupt bias in the moment by making it routine and creating a shared vocabulary. 2. Developing a clear code of conduct that outlines the rules of respect and collaboration. 3. Implementing consequences for bullying, including conversational, compensation, and career repercussions. The message is clear: don't promote that brilliant jerk. To learn more about preventing these harmful behaviors, read Chapter 5 of Just Work. Preventing discrimination, harassment, and physical violations in the workplace. Leaders must take proactive steps to prevent discrimination, harassment, and physical violations in the workplace. When a person in power puts their biases or prejudices into practice, discrimination is the result, which can lead to harassment and physical violations. Leaders must be accountable for responding in a way that minimizes the chances of it happening again and supports those who are harmed. To prevent discrimination, leaders must quantify bias and design people management systems for justice. To prevent harassment, leaders must create checks and balances and not allow any leader to have unilateral decision-making power. To prevent physical violations, leaders must create a culture of consent, ensuring they get permission before touching someone. Companies must measure diversity and inclusion to prevent systemic injustice. Furthermore, Just Work's Chapter 6 to 8 covers more topics on the subject matter. The importance of analyzing bias in the workplace. In Just Work, leaders are reminded to approach the lack of diversity in their teams with the same analytical approach they use to discover software bugs. Analyzing data on employee life cycles, such as hiring, pay, promotion, and mentoring, can reveal important insights. Alan Eustace, the Senior VP of Engineering at Google, found that certain courses weeded out more women engineers than men. By eliminating these courses, more women graduated and were hired into engineering positions. Leaders must ask why certain underrepresented groups are not being hired, promoted, or mentored, and make changes accordingly. Power checks prevent harassment. When one person holds too much power in a company, they are more likely to engage in bullying and harassment. This is because subordinates are reticent to report such behavior, as the powerful person is often the decision-maker for their employment. To prevent such abuses of power, all leaders, from junior managers to the CEO, should make important decisions through a consultative process with others. This will prevent any single person from having too much sway and will result in better decisions. Chapter 6 of Just Work discusses how to apply such checks and balances to management systems for a healthier workplace. Reinforcing a culture of consent. The concept of a culture of consent is simple: it is the responsibility of the initiator to ensure that the other person is comfortable with touch. Consensual dating within the same chain of command and unwanted touching can lead to dismissal. As we return to working in person, we have the opportunity to reinforce this culture, especially when it comes to greetings like the handshake. Rather than assuming the other person wants to shake hands, we should ask what they are comfortable with to reinforce consent. Creating institutional courage is also important in cases of physical violations. Employers should set up mechanisms for anonymous reporting, ensuring that the reporting chain is independent of those involved. Chapter 8 of Just Work provides more on how leaders can foster a culture of consent. Love and joy in creating just workplaces. Tracy K. Smith's commencement address to Wellesley's 2018 class reminds us that love and joy are crucial to bring to our work in creating more just workplaces. Tolerance falls short in creating a better world, and we must shift to love to achieve real change. This requires moving past fear and a fixation on our own power and authority. Simple conversations, like the one held by Kim Scott and Tiffany Lee in a recent podcast, can bring us one step closer to a more just and loving world. Recognizing the dynamics of bias, prejudice, bullying, discrimination, harassment, and physical violations in similar ways for all people can help us unite in interrupting them and making the world a better place. This growing understanding of our interconnectedness fills us with hope for the future.
As readers delve into A Just Work, they'll uncover the importance of speaking up in situations of bias, prejudice, and bullying. The book emphasizes the roles of both the target and the observer in mitigating these situations, and it advocates for a culture of consent within the workplace. By addressing power dynamics, implementing checks and balances in management, and establishing clear codes of conduct, Just Work enables leaders to foster a more respectful and collaborative environment. As a result, individuals and organizations will be better equipped to disrupt bias and promote growth, paving the way for a fairer and more inclusive society.